for part 2. So if anybody who's in part 1 needs 2 microphones, can they let us know now or forever hold their peace? Unless the name's Ulrika, because we know about Ulrika. Good, we're okay, good, excellent.
So we've got a fantastic lineup tonight, and we're being treated to a wonderful headline from the brilliant Jon Mathews back there. But to kick us off, what better way than Mr. Tim King? He's fresh from his performance at Glastonbury, not Glastonbury. Glastonbury. So please give a big warm round of applause to the wonderful Mr. Tim King, and he's doing a new poem.
Thank you very much. As MORWENNA said, this is a newish poem. It's a typically modest piece. It's all about me. It's called Ledge, and it goes like so. Surprisingly frequently, you tell me my poetry is brilliant. And I always reply, thank you, albeit often with the feeling that this response is less than adequate. When you tell me my poetry is brilliant, I don't feel flattered or compelled to disagree, but rather recondemned, hollowed out, and empty. Having said that, please don't stop. My inner child is gratified to learn when you're impressed by my lithe linguistic wizardry, verbal virtuosity, imagery delivery and zest. By all means, big me up forever. Be my guest, but realise this. I have no cause to doubt that I'm clever. As I'm sure you all know, you are clever too. We ain't called Homo sapiens for nothing. Our inventions are ubiquitous and prove that there has never been a scarcity of human ingenuity. Whereas honesty, integrity, and emotional maturity are arguably in deficit. Oh, pooh. Is this the price we pay for fetishising new? For me, the making of impressions is a technical digression from honest self-expression. Ingratiating trickery, no less, a carapace of mockery, no jest, just anything to pull you in. Behind this conspicuous disguise, I am constantly screaming, I love you, I really love you, I genuinely love you. And you are not helping much by pretending not to notice. Thank you. This is also a new poem. It's considerably shorter and a little bit darker. It's called Imaginary Mansion. I live in a house much larger than yours. No, actually, sorry, that's the wrong starting. As I say, it isn't yours. Start again. I live in a house full of unexplored rooms. Doors I'm scared to open because, as a child, I once or twice glimpsed adult fears. Hanging in thick membranes over cold metal windows, festering in puddles at the base of stairs, seeping out through mortar lines, separating brick from brick, and pissing on the embers of ill-made wormwood fires. Though I live in a house much larger than yours, the stench is unbelievable. I occupy less space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. I thought they were both. I love that second poem. The imagery in it was so powerful. Honestly, really wonderful. And by the way, you are brilliant. Another big round of applause for Tim. Don't feel empty. We're delighted to welcome back our next performer. Her words are always filled with such energy and rhythm, it's like a poetical dance. Please put your hands together for the wonderful Emily McCall.
I missed taking the mic, well, it was a few months ago now, because I was coming down on the train and all the trains were cancelled and my car was in the garage, and I live about 40-minute walk from the train station, so I got a lift in and I ended up walking back. So this is a poem I wrote when I was supposed to be here. It's not got the title yet. The first I notice walking home is dark. Only 50-inch flat screen casts the light. Pictures moving in HD, 2D, cold and empty. On a bit, the dusk is drawing in. A neatly manicured front lawn, except it isn't lawn, gravel, interspersed with giant pot plants, cacti, green tendrils. This home is cared for. Next, I see the lights cast out from a back room window into a yard. I imagine decking and a trellis. The light comes from what must be a kitchen at this time, family home. Around the corner, I'm faced with blank wall, obviously too obtrusive to put windows there. The house juts out into the common ground. Then there is darkness, behind a fence, bushes hiding in the fading light. Each window opens up to an empty room. No one is here. As I pass the last few houses, flat-packed, pebble-dashed, and round the corner, countryside escapes into the far beyond. Thanks. I'd quite like to read my magpie poems. I'm not sure if anyone's heard them before, but I'm going to read them again. This is For a Boy. Springtime means lighter evenings, brighter morns, pouring through the cotton blind. And it's not just another grey day, and the spring in my step, as I step, step, step to meet you at the corner. The cars hum and buzz, projected, electronic in a world of thinning cloud. They know, they whisper on their journeys, passing two children, walking, almost touching. To me, the night feels cool after the clumsy day. Another chance to clear the air. The stars. They whisper, suggestive at our innocence. So fritter away these last few months. Soon it will be summer, no time to sleep, to rest, to understand. It is just like this. This is all it is. I went to 2,000 Trees last week, which is an incredible festival, and everyone there is really friendly, and I got to read some poetry as well, which was even better, and the audience seemed to like it, which was plus, really. So this is my tree poem. Read my rings and you will see just how the years have been to me. The winds have blown around my sides, making the sound lonely, echoing through my leaves as I try to understand, to believe the world around me. Do you know the way the wind blows up the snow in the winter? The way spring grows through my branches in little flurries as the flowers peek up through weeds at my feet. Enough is enough. Nature will have its way with me, with you, someday. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Emily. I think it's lovely to see how much confidence you now have as a performer. It's wonderful, and your poems are so evocative. It's like I'm there with you walking back home. The layers that you create, it's brilliant. Another big round of applause for Emily. Thank you. He's a Taking the Mic regular and a much-loved favourite. With his collection Bookends available for purchase, please give a very warm round of applause to the wonderful Mr. Rodney Boucher. Continue to clap, Rodney.
Thank you, MORWENNA. I'm going to start with 3 little mini mischief poems. And the first one has the delightfully cultural title of Shit Sandwich. Life is a shit sandwich which should set you thinking, which part am I? The crust or the filling? The next one's called You Know. Such a bore when people keep saying, you know, you know, you know. Because if we know, what are they telling us for? And the last one I like, I'm allowed to like some of my own work. It's called Fly Past. The royals waved to the crowds below, giving the jets a token glance. A Republican pigeon, seizing its chance, took careful aim and crapped. Everybody clapped. My village where I live is quite a creative village, and they have a harvest festival committee working themselves up for the harvest festival, and they asked me if I could write a poem for the festival in September, which included the First World War, the harvest and village life. So you're lucky because you're going to get a sneak preview. It's called Molly and Tom. Some of you might need some tissues. Molly and Tom. Molly and Tom were from Crediton. They met when he put the chain back on her Rudge Whitworth bike. She was 16, he was 17, it was 1915. They talked as he worked on the grass by the park. Smitten, he took his time with the task. She wore a high-neck blouse with leg of mutton sleeves, a cameo brooch at her throat. She had glossy black hair tucked under a wide-brimmed hat, trimmed with lace, which she kindly took off to fan his face. He was 6 foot tall, hands like shovels, waistcoat and cap, struggling to hold long curls back. When jobs would allow, they met for a year. Molly worked at the manor, Tom followed the plough. News got worse. They stayed close, struggling to put head before heart, but the war pulled them apart. In 1916, aged 18, Tom was sent for by the Devonshires, along with other volunteers. Destination France, a place of slender chance. No more larking about on sunny birdsong days, mixing work and play on a trailer load of hay. Gone forever, their hands on a gate, a cow's udders, a sheep's fleece. Gone too the social rub, the click and shove of dominoes, pies and pints at the village pub. No more throwing a double top, queuing the billiards for an in-off. Guns no longer for rabbiting, but for other mothers' sons, like them, denied growing old by doing what they were told. Small comfort for mothers if they died to save others. Going over the top, the sergeant's parting shot. Remember lads, it's either them or us. So it was, but not for those who started the fuss, covering their tracks with poppies and plaques. Wars? Ask not who's going to die, who's going to cry, but who starts them and why. Hereafter, let us harvest only corn, not the corpses of men and horses. Thank you.
I've been doing loads of writing, I've not been doing any editing. Thought I'd have about 5 to choose from tonight, and then I read through them all. This one's, I did actually kind of, yeah, it's kind of done. So the World Cup was on, and this was quite, annoyingly they kind of stopped doing this near the end, but I don't know if anyone's noticed when they have this habit of like picking out attractive women from the crowds at football matches. And I kind of got to thinking, you know, like, well, basically I was just imagining it's someone's job to do that and select everything. So this is kind of like almost like a vision of the future, where it's like a very specialised person whose job is to kind of vet and select, you know, appropriate people, probably to appeal to advertisers, really. Yeah, so there you go. Oh yeah, it's called The Loneliness of the ITV World Cup Totty Spotter. I wish the poem was as good as the title. It's not. Deep below the Maracanã there is another world that extends far down, endless levels, endless passages that go for miles. Subterranean corridors lined with 5-digit number rooms that open into media dungeons, colosseums in their own fashion. I trudged through, sunglasses on, through the dazzling toothache blue of fluorescent lights, through the half-jog strides of marketing suits, yabbering into head mics in Babel tongues, into plastic strings that curl like worms from mouth to ear. I see the gadgets and the men, and I wonder, who is the parasite here? I find the room and enter. Accept the water the work placement girl offers, dismiss her with a nod, take the vast leather chair and switch on the screen. This is my stage, a cinema screen. There should be a better line there. Change that. This is my stage. A pool of slate sheen. A fly's view smashed and shattered, fragments broken into 1,000 smaller squares. Colours of the spectators transmitted in liquid pixels down from the balmy sunlight world above. Bold colours, red, blue and green, American stars and Dutch orange. My eye scans across them, searching, seeching, latching on. I analyse, decide on fashion's coin flip, yes or no. I flip through views, zoom in, zoom out, switch cameras, pause, skimming across surface forms, cheekbone symmetries, body shapes, gaining pace. I review my initial picks. No, her eyes are sad. No, her arm is scorched and wrinkled raw. No, her arms are stick thin and would cause offence. I'm looking for a clarity of skin, a smoothness, a tone that sings of a need for moisturising cream, sleek hair that whispers of coconuts and H2O technology. Eventually, I find a few. I send them out. Lights appear on the dashboard from John Lewis, McDonald's and Beckfred, all showing green. The history of ITV World Cup totty spotters is a tomb, lined with the P45s of those who could not grasp with a cool hand the fizzing live wire of their art. I have quick eyes and I know my work, but there is a kind of burden to, a kind of curse. It is this, that I must remember each and every face. And in my lonely nights they visit me and join the endless harem of my dreams. And more enter every time, but never ever does one leave. And eventually they grow names. And eventually they become my friends. And they listen to thoughts I cannot say and reassure me and tell me things. I close in on a woman now. She is old, she is all twisted bark and brine. Her gaze like a sea breeze sweeps from the desert of her skin, and I know that she could teach me. And if her image went out to the world for a few seconds, it would make a difference. For this world is forged in minute increments, in tiny twists and kinks, in subtle manipulations, too subtle for one person to notice or resist, but multiplied endlessly. I pass her through. 3 red lights appear upon the dashboard, Foster's, Apple and Tesco. The game is nearly over. I turn off the screen and see reflected upon the blackness the small grey ghost of me, sagging in my seat. And the voice in my head says, no, bad skin, no, wrong weight, no, his demeanour is all wrong. No, it says no, and it keeps going, and it's my own voice, at least I think it is, but I can't make it stop. I can't bear to watch. I flick on the screen and wait for my boss. The history of ITV World Cup totty spotters is a tomb lined with the P45s of those who could not grasp with a cool hand the fizzing live wire of their art. Thank you.
Burning Bright, the remix, and it's about the William Blake poetry, but it's also about a bet my friend gave to me. He said, oh, you'll never be able to do a version of Tiger, Tiger Burning Bright, and a spot with champagne on the table. So I went, why not? And it happened, and that was a very good night. But it's also about my first love and how it ended badly, so enjoy it. You need the mic? I'll get out of the way.
No, stand here. Stand here. Ladies
You
and
can
gentlemen,
tell we've rehearsed.
we've rehearsed this for ages.
Yes.
Why don't hang
I
on,
don't
why
need
don't-
the mic.
Yes, screen. Screen the better.
Okay.
Screen the better.
Yeah, okay, I'll stand here then. Okay. Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright, the remix by Alex Gibbons. Take 1. Tiger, Tiger, burning bright, around me all is light, not knowing what will come of this night. I go there every night. The club is part of me. From the lights, from the smells of drink and sweat, I come here for one reason. I want sex. I want dreams, I want experiences that I never had before. Each movement of the floor vibrates me, turning my world into circles, not knowing if my heart desire will come. Each movement turns me from stone to gold. Everyone is looking at me, like I am a dark soul who flitters through many worlds, until that moment happens. She is there, the only woman I have ever cared about. I saw her first at a club night for dark souls. I knew she must be mine. I stared and knew she would be mine. I asked if she needed a light. I knew this was a bad idea, as she stalked me like the tiger she knew she was. A tiger in tight PVC and a whip of gold. I see her again. It is like the knife has been untwisted and punched into my heart. I am no longer the nobody. People look away as she turns me over. I am now stone while she is ice, not knowing that the blade is well sharp and the language is well strong, and the world slows down. I only see her, but the whole club hears her. I stand and take it.
You fucker! You fucker! You fucker!
She screams. She knows everything. Like Cupid's arrow has been shot, I feel blood on my face. I hear the sound before I see it coming. She slaps me with her rings and screams at me again.
You fucker! You fucker! You fucker! You fucking don't love me!
So I am stunned. I stand there. I drink my whiskey. I smoke my joint alone. Like the prior at the freak show. Until another day hits my face. It's chucking out time in this comedy of lost souls. Each light that splits my head apart and hurts so much, I know that this magic game will start again. I walk and stare and I know one thing. I am the tiger that stalks the night again. Not looking for my prey, but another day that does not end the same way. But looking for another day.
Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alex. I think Blake would have been proud of that.
Speak. No words. No touch. Love sidelined. Drain pipe. No flair. A line of coke. What am I crying for? These tears. I've just trodden on my own foot. Put my foot in it. Well, he did. The other actor. On a lighter note, something about the internet. We'll see where it goes. It's called Oh Crumbs, and it's a piece of fast fiction, only it goes so fast you might not keep up with it. Okay. Dennis thought he had a gift for comedy. He asked his mate Paul if he made people laugh. Only when you leave the room, said Paul. Dennis yearned to change. He made a caricature of himself, kept a label on his scarf, which said cheap at the price. He wore his swim cap to lunch, much needed because when he ate his cookies, bits crumbled into his tea, splashed his glasses, and formed interesting patterns on his designer moustache. He often looked like an advert for assorted biscuits. He soon realised he'd have to work out a new marketing strategy if he was to become famous. He decided to give every assorted biscuit a face with a funny expression and tagged each one to an astrological prediction for all the starlets on the stage. He chose things like, this week, your popularity will increase if you take the biscuit. Everyone wanted an assorted biscuit except the woman in the Stop and Shop. Individual biscuits with facial expressions just won't sell, she said. But no one stopped to shop because they'd all become fascinated by the future. And this is where Dennis fitted in, because for him the future was wide open. His assorted Astro-faced biscuits were soon attached to every new smartphone, laptop and iPad. Soon, the whole internet was wired to biscuits. Each biscuit became Google-eyed, and each new search had the future written all over it. Dennis took off his velvet gloves. Change was at hand. He was making a killing.
Fabulous, Gail, and your first poem was just so powerful. You totally lulled me. I wasn't expecting that to come, and the stream of consciousness style was...
I used to be in the playground with my friends, and one of my friends would say, "Oh, what do you want to play today?" And I'd always say, "Oh, socialist revolutionaries." And we'd run around the playground shooting all the capitalist children and stealing the din ladies' assets and sharing them with the masses. Oh, they were good times. Yeah, the kids now, they don't play socialist. They don't pretend to be socialist revolutionaries. They pretend to be porn stars, drug addicts and X Factor judges. As a semi-intelligent liberal music lover, I don't know which of the X Factor judges to hate the most. You'd think it'd be Simon Cowell, wouldn't it? But the X Factor judge I hate the most is Gary Barlow. He spends all this time pretending to be a decent person. Hey Gary Barlow, maybe there wouldn't be so many children in need if you paid your taxes. We didn't always play socialist revolutionaries though. Sometimes we'd play doctors and nurses. Yeah, we'd play doctors and yeah, we'd check each other's heartbeat and fix each other's broken legs. And I'd always be the doctor that leaves his practice in order to travel around South America on a motorbike before becoming a socialist revolutionary. Sometimes we played trains. We'd run around the playground pretending to stop at the station and be delayed back to the classroom due to a faulty signal. And I'd always be the train that leaves British Rail in order to travel around Central Africa as a socialist revolutionary. And same at home. My mum, she'd read me a bedtime story. She'd get the Mr. Men books out, and she'd say, "Oh, which Mr. Men book do you want to read today?" And she'd say, "What about Mr. Happy Goes to the Zoo?" And I'd say no. Say, "Oh, what about Mr. Grumpy Learns to Dance?" And I'd say no. And she'd say, "Oh, what about Mr. Proletariat Takes Control of the Means of Production?" And I'd say yes, because that was my favourite Mr. Men book. Do you remember Mr. Proletariat Takes Control of the Means of Production? Yeah, it was a good one, wasn't it? I think what happened was Mr. Bourgeois, he stole Mr. Proletariat's hat, didn't he? He stole Mr. Proletariat's hat, and that made Mr. Proletariat sad. And then Mr. Bourgeois, he drove through the mud, and it splashed all over Mr. Proletariat, and that made him even more sad. And then I think Mr. Bourgeois, he stopped Mr. Proletariat from seeing his trade union steward on company time. And that made him really sad. So with the help of Mr. Grumpy, Mr. Tickle and Mr. Noisy, he decided to start a revolution and take control of the means of production. And yeah, it really made an impact on me as a child, that book. Really made an impact on me as a child. But I haven't become a socialist revolutionary. I've become this. I've become a stand-up comedian and political satirist, which is... it's alright, isn't it? It's not great, but you know, every now and again I do manage to make people laugh, which is good. But it's a lot of fun. But no point has it been more fun than when we nearly went to war in Syria. That was good, got some material out of that. I found it ironic that David Cameron wanted us to invade a country led by a corrupt despot who allows his citizens to needlessly suffer. And that went well, didn't it? It amazed me that it took Russia, of all countries, to persuade us into taking a diplomatic and humanitarian route. Russia, of course, being well known for being advocates of peace and human rights. That was irony there, one of many comic devices on display this evening. And Tony Blair as well, he's a Middle East peace envoy. What that man doesn't know about peace in the Middle East isn't worth knowing, is it? So I think he's well qualified for the job, because clearly he sorted Iraq out, didn't he? Oh no. You know, ironic is the most commonly misused word in the English language. Isn't that ironic? That was a joke that utilised irony, ironically, and was about irony, so, you know, it was good. I can do proper jokes as well. Listen to this, right? It's like a little one-liner, short, like Christmas cracker joke. Okay. What hot beverages do cats really not like? Curiosity. So David Cameron, George Osborne and Theresa May, they're in a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and it starts sinking. Who gets saved? The British public. And I have forgotten the next joke, so I'm going to skip on. Yeah, so I'm a deeply political person, and I'm very regularly outraged and surprised by politics, especially after Ariel Sharon died, which obviously was good because it saved The Hague the expense of a lengthy war crimes trial. But I was amazed at all the leaders coming out with these comments about Ariel Sharon's life, and David Cameron talked about his brave and controversial decisions. Remember these brave and controversial decisions and this. Oh, the English language is fucking hard sometimes, isn't it? These brave and controversial decisions included the massacre of thousands of Palestinian civilians. But obviously, compared to David Cameron, he does come across as a bit of a moderate. Moving on. I sometimes have a little bit of an issue with socio-political Tourette's. I sometimes find myself saying things in an inappropriate moment. At no point is this worse than when I'm clothes shopping. So, you know, I might be with a girlfriend or out somewhere with some friends, and we go into a shop like New Look, Next or Primark, and I find myself commenting about the paying conditions in the factory. Oh, look, a fire exit. Oh, if only they had fire exits in that factory, all those Bangladeshi women wouldn't have burnt to death. Oh, look, a structurally sound roof. If only they had a structurally sound roof in that factory, all of those Indian women wouldn't have been crushed to death. Oh, look, a paid member of staff. If only they had paid members of staff in that warehouse, all of those Albanian women wouldn't have been forced into prostitution. It becomes a problem. But fortunately, I have discovered the man creche, or the pub as it's sometimes called, which is a fantastic place to put me if you ever want to do some clothes shopping and I'm around. This solves the problem completely. But as well as being a deeply political person, I'm also German. I'm also a little bit German. I'm part German, which obviously sometimes the two they don't go together too well today. But yeah, my granddad was German, but he moved to England and he ended up fighting in the war for the English because by this stage he considered himself to be English, and obviously it was a very unfashionable time to be considered German. Not like now. Now's a very fashionable time to be considered part German because of the fatherland's glorious recent victory in Brazil. But no, my granddad, he ended up fighting on the war. But I find it very difficult. Some people are very proud of their grandparents who fought in the world wars, but I find it really hard. My granddad was incredibly racist. Now they'll just pay a poll to do it for them. It sums up how they see us quite nicely. But recently they've begun showing Fawlty Towers in Germany for the first time a couple of years ago, and they absolutely love it. It's one of the most popular shows out there. They absolutely love Basil Fawlty, obviously your spiritual king here in Devon, and yeah, they're really impressed. Only they think it's a documentary, and they're watching it going, look at how inefficiently the English run hotels. That was good, Nick. The funny voice and everything. I quite like that. Yeah. Yeah, this comedy thing is going quite well. I've got about 60 likes on Facebook, which is alright, isn't it? Until you realise that the campaign to make Jeremy Clarkson Prime Minister got over 1,000 in a day. So I've got this new policy, right? What I'm going to do is every like I get on Facebook, I'm not going to kill a kitten. Now, that might sound like it doesn't mean a lot, but I used to have a real major issue with killing kittens. It all started when I first moved to Devon and I couldn't sleep and I had insomnia. And I used to, I discovered if I killed a kitten, I'd end up sleeping through the night fine. And you know, it was purely medicinal at first. I just realised it was a really good way of getting through the night. But before I knew it, you know, I hit a low point, and you know, I sometimes just needed to kill a kitten in order to get through the day. And some evenings I'd come home from work, and before I knew it, I'd killed 4 or 5 kittens without really thinking about it. I never engaged in the recreational side, though. I never sat around in someone's living room passing a kitten round, slowly killing it together. I never did that. I did deal in kittens for a little while, but only sort of like as a little bit of a sideline them to friends. But yeah, it was a difficult time, really, and I ended up getting into this kind of trap, and I ended up going to a support group in a church hall, and Kitten Killers, it was called, Kitten Killers KK, and you had to sit there, and you had to admit that you had a problem. You had to say, my name is John, and I'm a king killer. And, you know, it was hard, but with the help of people at the support group and my friends and my family and Jesus has been a really big help. It's now been 24 days since I last. I think it's going to be okay. Socialist revolutionary thing isn't going too well though. Every time I do try to commit an act of social revolution, it ends up being a bit lame. Like, you know, I get sick of the people in the first class compartment glaring at me as if they're saying, "Oh, what are you doing peering through the glass at us?" You know, with their grey chairs and their adequate leg room, where we're all crammed into the vestibule outside the block toilets, like battery chickens sick on the smell of our own excrement. So what I like to do, well, one day I'm going to buy a first class ticket and I'm going to walk in there, really scruffy clothes, with an Asda carrier bag full of Stella Artois. I'm just going to open it up and like belch loudly and just sit there and drink it and, you know, I've got my ticket, fuck you. But for now, because I can't afford it, what I like to do is I like to write the word pricks on labels and just put it under the first class sign and smile at myself. I had to get a rail replacement bus a few months ago, and you should have seen the look on their faces when they realised they would have to get on the same bus as us. I ended up deliberately sitting next to one of them and talking aggressively about socialism all the way back to Exeter. Brilliant. They get as worried when they see us reading Marx as we do when we see them reading Machiavelli. I'm glad someone laughed at that. Last time I told that joke, it was just a room full of silence. It's fantastic. So I've become really cynical and you know, quite bitter really. And I was at the food bank, and I realised that, you know, collecting the week's groceries. And I realised I needed to rediscover my love for the people, because Che Guevara, he said that the revolution has to be fueled by love for the people. So, you know, and I thought what I'll do is I'll go see the most loving, kind of caring person I know. I'll go see my nephew, yeah? You remember him from the beginning? Yeah, told you he was coming back, and I'll go see my nephew. So I walked round to my nephew's, and he opened the door, and I looked into his eyes. I say eyes. I couldn't see properly for a week. You know, because he'd had his eyes removed, didn't he, to headlights. And I've got another one, I've got an alternative, right? So I remember, like cynical inspiration, nephew, I go round, and he's in a massive rush to get out, and I'm like, hey, where's the fire? Oh, fuck. I know. Yeah. Didn't work, did it? No? No, I'm not doing your thing now. No, I just no, I'm not. Is this about bet? They won't like it. No, I do think they're intelligent. It's just okay. Okay, so this is some jokes that Theodore here, my friend, who some of you have obviously encountered before. This is some jokes he written. It's kind of like observational humour from the perspective of a bear. Hey, who likes honey? I like honey. You know when you're walking along and you smell some honey, and you just go and you go all misty-eyed and everything goes black. And next thing you know, you're chewing on a honey sandwich surrounded by the limbs of a schoolboy. It's not Michael McIntyre, is it really? Okay, hey, who likes picnics? I like picnics. You know when you're in the woods with your mates having a picnic and you get discovered by some children singing a stupid song? And you go all misty-eyed, don't you? And before you know it, you're chewing on the limbs of a schoolboy surrounded by honey sandwiches. Is it all like this? Oh, this is quite good. You know when you're walking through the woods and you need a shit? Yeah? Well, you just go, don't you? Because we're bears. Not like those humans build little buildings to shit in. We just shit where we like, don't we? You know? I've heard that some humans, right? Some humans, they shit in the same building they sleep in. Oh, how weird's that? That was quite good, actually. Okay, men. You know when you smell a woman who's in season, a nice female bear, and you just... I'm not. That's filth. I'm not. Do you actually do that? No girls ever do that. One tried to do it to me once, which was a bit weird. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'd like to finish now with a poem, and it's based on a true story about a series of genuine experiences I had, and something that for a while became a little bit of an obsession. And I'm quite nervous about this because there's some really good poets here, and I feel a little bit like a little bit lost in the woods, and that wasn't another bear joke. This is something became an obsession for a while, and it's titled Toilet Humour. One night in a rather grimy pub, sipping on a grimy drink, when something starts to bubble up, and I step to the loos for a think. I sit amongst the dirt and shit, gazing vaguely at the floor, when I notice what someone's writ on the back of the toilet door. Beware the Irish limbo dancer, written right above the gap. As something of a mood enhancer for when you take a crap. There I fell down to my knees and began my sacred quest, to trail through all the toilet sleaze in search of the very best. Oh, the filth that I did see, only the very next minute, when I looked down at my knee and saw I'd no right in it. At first my quest was mostly filled with names and phone numbers, and written by hands most unskilled jokes about people's mummers. Until late one fateful Bristol night, in a quiet downtown bar, someone summed up our existential plight, and we don't know who they are. In blue biro on the toilet wall, they wrote what they had to say. These 5 words they did scrawl. Toy Story 2 was okay. Thank you, you've been lots of fun. Thank you. Thank you.
What a cracking headline.
That was lovely. Thank you, John. Good grief. A comedian that gets clapped at the end of their set. It's just unheard of.
They clapped, he was so good. Let's clap him again.
We're going to have a break for about 15 minutes, during which time hopefully we'll get another microphone. And in the second half we have all sorts of wonderful people. We have Gwen Took, we have Ian Beach, we have Ulrika, we have Elsie Katz, it goes on. Ruth Butler, James Turner. It's going to be good. We can't list them all, can we?
No.
Yes, but we should be back in 10 to 15 minutes, so by all means go get a drink, go and tell John how much you like his bear jokes, and we'll see you soon. From our own wonderful Mr. John Caton. Lovers of music will be pleased to note that John's not singing tonight. And his best player wasn't very fair, was it? John's going to come and he's going to play us something which is in D apparently, and has a bit of Exodus in it, and I love the tune of Exodus. So a big round of applause please for the wonderful Mr. Jon Caton.
It's actually a concerto in D flat. I was only kidding, it's actually called Happy Songs.
that in our faces we need to be seen, you tell them their problems aren't, they have only been. Dear radical feminists, I'm pissed because you think you deserve to bump fists for mastering the use of the word queer. When you know nothing of what it's like to be called dyke for the way you're dressed, to go through a series of rigorous tests to win the right to be addressed, to be seen as the human you've always been. You will never, never, never come near the idea of the fear of sitting on the cold toilet seat with the sound of the real men's feet pound in your head. And you'd rather be dead than hear the knock on the door that asks what you're in the gentleman's for. When you're peeling your bloody padlock at a snail's pace and listening to your heart race when you carry it home in your hand, you will never know the fear that people like you will stamp on my right to be a man because I use a tampon. You cite Adam's apples, broad shoulders, big hands, and you never see anything more than trans, privileged male invasions on the space you claimed. You're feminist only in name when you fight against the right for women to belong, when you say they were born wrong because they're packing a schlong. Well, strap-ons don't have straps, and woman-born woman is crap. Dear radical feminist, I'm pissed because you think you get to resist the hands of time and smother the changes, treating fellow women like strangers, based on birth assignment, based on race. This is not your movement, not your space to tell women that they have no place. Dear radical feminists, the sisterhood is not yours to define, and it's not any more yours than it is mine. Your brave new world will be shattered, unkind, if you surge on and leave the same people behind. Dear straight, white, woman-born woman, non-humanist, revolutionary, radical feminist, I'm sorry to tell you, there's something you've missed.
Wow. Can we hear it again for Quinn, please?
Well, I usually start anything with something light and silly. Perhaps get a little bit more serious later. Well, I'm sorry folks, I'm not going to do that tonight. So, might be a bit lighter later, who knows. But this is chronological. Take it as it comes. This is something called November 1976. And I wrote it in about 1990, and that's how long it took to get my mind around it. And that's the way it was. But let's just slip back into November 1976. The autumn never came for us this year. There was summer's end, drab, faded green, waiting for change, and then hospital visits. Hospital routine for weeks and weeks. And when our golden summer child came home, pallid, deaf and lame, winter was here. Winter will be very long this year. Our lively child has come to life again. He's cheated death, he's lived with pain, he's conquered fear. In his new silent world, he copes alone. No one can tell him things he wants to hear. This boy of 3 now re-explores his home. He limps upstairs to check that all's still there, his room, his toys, his things. He has to see. He finds that nothing's changed, but from this year, nothing will be the same. Our summer child will walk and run again, but he will never hear. Okay, we'll just move on about 15 or 20 years. This is called role reversal. Staying with my grown-up deaf son is like being a small child again. I know I'm going swimming today, I've got my things, but I don't know that this involves a bus to another town. I don't know which stop to ask for. They've all got disabled passes. They can get off anywhere. If I'm lucky, he writes it down or draws a map. But usually we're holding up the queue with pencil conversations. And I would have liked to know that we were going out all day. I would have brought my coat and purse. We catch another bus and buy a meal. He pays. Does he know how much I don't know? Or think it matters? I guess today is unfolding as planned for me a magic mystery day. What happens, happens. And I wonder if perhaps this is how his childhood often was. Okay, let's put on another 5 years or so. This is called the text message revolution. Suddenly the deaf are talking to the world and to each other, using our language, barriers down. No longer isolated, their eyes are now fixated, not on faces, but on tiny screens, their fingers tap, tap, tapping all day. They don't see our exclamations, look where you're going, mind that car, like the blind or the blindfold guide dog trainer. I know, I've seen them. Like the blind or the blindfold guide dog trainer. They are walking into lampposts, and it's great to be in touch, conversing alive, a button press, words flash away. They are busy making plans and changing plans, assignations, destinations, times and places, all are fluid now. A pocket trembles, words are coming back. Once when out with hearing company, they seldom knew what they'd be doing next. Plans were other people's secrets, life a mystery. Now it's often us who have to ask. And finally, at the party of the day.
Without any sense of irony. These are 3 poems which are all to do with mythical figures and reimagining mythical or storybook figures. This one's called Prometheus Unbounded, and just in case you don't know, Prometheus was the human who stole fire from the gods. Burn through your life, Promethean fire of gods inside you, an element more use on earth than heaven, golden, improbable, dazzling, I see the worst of it, are burnt by it, see others burned. You leave behind beliefs, parents, friends, lovers. I stand in your way, you bridge me, ford my waters with melded metal, gold filigree. You leave destruction in your wake, forests burn to the ground, but save more than you take. Light candles, torches, lanterns. Live your element, the choices you make, the consequence of them. I will flow alongside you the rest of my life. Watch you walk your path next to mine. See you reach the summit of that hill you've been climbing so long. Light a beacon so bright it conquers the dark. I, the river, will blast in its reflected glow. And this is Mrs. Atlas said, and it's a villanelle. Put down the world, love, come to my bed. Too long you've held the weight of it, come hold the pleasure of me instead. Ride continents of hips with hands roughened, grazed by shifting plates. Put down the world, love, come to my bed. Hands dry and huge as desert plains, the Nile a lifeline across your palm. Come hold the pleasure of me instead. Pupils burnt black from endless space, hold light of long dead stars. Put down the world, love, come to my bed. Put down the sunrise, the sunset, unbend the weight from your burning neck. Put down the world, love, come to my bed. Come hold the pleasure of me instead.
Renata, dandy. He was very good, but she was very good as well. So I suspect she's going to be good again tonight. Yeah, she's looking quite confident. She came up to me in the break actually and said, "Oh, I didn't know I was allowed to swear. I'd have done something else." Would you please give it up for Elsie Katz?
Hello. I'm not swearing this time. I'm doing a safe set. Beacon Vaults, Exmouth. At the jam set at the Vaults on Wednesday night were Pete and Else and Tim and Chris. Pete piped and fluted, Hippie Pete guitared, and Tim and Chris and Martin guitared too. And Else, 'cause Roy had not showed up with tambourine to lend, played barstool. Next morning, after her part-time job, of course, she bought tambourine, 'cause barstool's got no bells, and minded Deirdre's songs, and made new words, for music was the thing that kept her right. And now I'll rhyme it. Every woman and man that was playing in the vaults was raising Pan. The road trip near Sestina of Pat, Sue and Nina. By Dunblane roundabout on a windy motorway, Pat stuck a thumb out, fleeing from trouble, with sodden trainers, leaking cagoule, gloves no good, fearing from past experience that to woe was bound. Looked rough ahead, frantic for that miracle turn of fate where a busy driver had that change of heart. And Sue, who liked hitches, slowed to change down gears, provided that helping turn Pat needed. Wanting food and fags, it was no trouble to buy for two at Nina's, where the grub was good. We'll sleep in the wagon if that's okay. You're bound to feel better the morn. We'll make good time, be way ahead. The Eurostar route, it's way good to go down the dam. I'm Holland bound. You've been too, just carrying daffs. No trouble with border control. Sleep now, my love. You're good as anyone I've met. And catch your gyro next week. I've changed in pounds and euros plenty. No, it's my lucky turn to pick up you. And then, when we return, we'll eat full cooked at Nina's. For a change, you cheeky thing. Give me a hug. You're beautiful, by the way. We'll have a shower. Of bubbles. Lovely job. You're bound to love grapefruit. Hey, your leaving calendar was a good thing. And, as they say, never trouble trouble till it troubles you. And you're no trouble. And from then on, better came from good. For Pat and Sue got hitched. Sue didn't change her mind. Big Nina did the spread. Elsie felt bound to read her poetry at the service. Katie did a turn, singing and guitar. What? Katie Tunstall? Hey, no way. But yes, our way. As poets, we are bound to give our tales a turn. The limelight's never trouble. My poem's well good. Hey, spare a little change.
From a publisher. So, you fancy getting a book published? So I said, oh, that sounds interesting. And it was, he seems to publish books by poetry books by people with mental health problems. So I figured, or who have had mental health problems. I fitted the bill. And we had exchanged a few emails and said, I think I want to publish under a pseudonym because my family don't know the worst about what happened to me as a kid. He said, fine, yeah, pseudonym. So we got quite a long way. Now I thought I'd better visit his website, see what sort of publisher this is. And you click on something saying, find out how you can get your books published. So I clicked on that. And then there's a whole list of things that you might want. And you click on those and you find that you've got to pay. So I wrote to him and said, yeah, it's all right. I understand that if I want to get published by you, I've got to pay quite a lot of money, actually. And he said, yes, we still do a bit of free publishing. Anyway, I said, you know, if I got to pay, I'm not really interested. And I haven't heard from him since. So I think what he was interested in wasn't my poems so much as my money. Yeah. So that was quite interesting. But I do owe him the fact that I looked through my huge back file of poems and picked out all the mental health ones. And there were ones there I'd forgotten I'd written, and some of them were quite awful. And I thought I would read a couple of them to you tonight. One of them, yeah. Maybe two of them. This one's called Means Without End, and it's what I've learnt, really. It's not directly mental health stuff, but it's indirectly mental health stuff. Means without end. It isn't enough to know a thing or two, the way, the rules by heart, when and when not to answer back. Or stare for hours at priceless works of art till you lose track of time and place and you. To bone up on the great Illuminati, the very great indeed, just isn't enough, you understand. Nor is it enough to read the poems they read, buy the same brand or vote for the same party. It isn't enough to fall in love again and grow too close too fast and get two sets of feelings burnt while lessons such as love's too good to last remain unlearnt in spite of all the pain. It isn't enough to mention masturbation. Then look me in the eye, you'd see me blush, you'd think you'd won. Or find employment as a foreign spy and poke your gun at everybody's nation. It isn't enough when you've overspent, gambled your life away to claim you never played to win, and then to prove you mean just what you say, to smear your skin with possum's excrement. It isn't enough to give to beggars often, knowing they can't be choosers, or always, knowing they could be you, or never, in case they're alcohol abusers, or to the few whose soft eyes make you soften. It isn't enough to mask the pain you feel with interrupted meanings, dismembered syntax, crumpled shapes, false starts, split ends, mosaics of scraps and gleanings, humorless japes, subversions of the real. Nor is it enough to put a bit of rhyme in it and render it digestible with similes and metaphors. Or make it scientific so it's testable, learning its laws, letting it run and timing it. Nor is it enough to want to be disturbed, to scrub your skin so raw that all injustice hurts like hell, yet somehow goads you into wanting more, the more to yell at freedoms being curbed. You go into denial, you laugh it off, you talk straight, get assertive, you break down, say you can't abide it, or you go underground, low profile, furtive. You've been there, tried it. Nothing is ever enough. Therefore, rejoice. The answer is not far. The future has just gone. So now you're here, completely free of that compulsion to become someone. Enough to be what you are. Enough to be what you already are.
And at this end of the evening, this first poem is one, I think I should have borrowed Robert Garnham's technique and called it Poem. But I called it The Ashtray. A brass ashtray inherited from my grandfather. Just over 5 inches in diameter, 3 small crescents incised from its rim to accommodate cigarettes, cigars and pipe stems. Perhaps not the most intriguing of heirlooms for a 21st century non-smoker. I study its central column, 3 inches high, slim and tapering to a sharpish point, employed to hold open a matchbox when surmounted in its burnished holder. Manufactured long before tobacco products carried government warnings declaring that they could seriously damage your health. Why should I ponder so ruefully this obsolete artifact of a bygone age? The central column is a bullet. The base is the end of a 4.5-inch howitzer shell. Lot 134, 1916. Marked with at least 2 broad arrows, lest we forget that this was once British government property. A macabre souvenir of the slaughter he survived. I hold it in my hand as news bombards my ears. Its descendants destroying lives, raining down on schools and hospitals somewhere every day. Nearly 100 years later. Government health warnings seemingly inappropriate. That made me think I wanted to return to one of the poems I wrote last year. Having read a book by Mark Thomas, the great political activist Mark Thomas. And that book is called As Used on the Famous Nelson Mandela. It's all about torture. And the title of this poem, which is Small Arms. Blessed are the peacebreakers, for they have inherited the earth. 640 million small arms in the world. I can't actually see this very well because it's rather dark here. I'm going to have to move. I'll move over here. Sorry about that. That's perfect. Small arms. Blessed are the peacebreakers, for they have inherited the earth. 640 million small arms in the world. That's pistols, rifles, machine guns, grenade launchers, and all things nice. Each manufactured to be a perfect killing device. 640 million small arms in the world. How many small arms have you deprived of all their charms, torn them from their mother's breast, and tossed those babes in pits alongside all the rest? 640 million small arms in the world, sold by men without a care, like breakfast foods or Tupperware. You men in sharp suits, good at figures, although your fingers aren't pulling triggers, you are the true serial killers. You have no share in our anger, horror and despair. You have a thin veneer of sincere urbanity, no obvious signs of crazed insanity to excuse your heinous disregard for humanity. Your lust for wealth you cannot sate, indifferent to horrific scenes. Your motto, if you supply the hate, then we'll supply the means. 1 person killed every minute with small arms in city streets or burnt out farms. To feed your greed, you sick death dealers, facilitators of hell. Well, kiss your lovers, hug your children, greet a friend, without a thought of how and why lives end. You rationalise your part in why men kill. If we don't sell, then others will. Your self-justifying sophistry simply doesn't wash with me. I have you in my telescopic sights. Will that give you sleepless nights? You're lucky. I'm not a violent type. This is just a verbal snipe. You don't need to lie awake terrified of a late-night raid by me. No, you haven't got to quake. What's there to fear from mere poetry? So you'll sleep easy in your beds, the sleep of the just, plain evil. Oh yes, but please perchance to dream and hear those little children scream, the most searing indictment of your deadly vile incitement of crimes of unadulterated hate. Your small arms used to kill, to maim and violate. Perhaps imagine your loved ones dead, shot through stomach, heart or head, and naked on the pyre rudely hurled, and see our protest banner now unfurled against you and 640 million small arms in the world.
Thank you. Let's do it again for Ian. I particularly enjoyed the rhyming of sophistry with won't wash with me.
And his first poem he only wrote this afternoon, and I thought that was one of the best poems you performed. I thought that was wonderful, so well done.
Yes, we like you. Please keep coming. We like you all. In fact, it was brilliant. I got a really, really good taking the mic. And even though some people have had to leave to get their train, there's quite a few people left. It's pretty good.
When are we back to?
We're back on Wednesday, August the 20th.
Something like that.
Well, I'm going for the 20th of August being the third Wednesday in August.
And we'll send out an invite as usual within a couple of days.
Yes, and if you're not on the mailing list, I think this actually only applies to Elsie. Yeah, we'll put you on the mailing list. And yes, thank you for flying with us. Bye, Emily. You were great. Give yourself all a massive round of applause because you were wonderful.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you all next month.